Picture this. It's 2009, you're holding a PlayStation Portable, you've got Cloud Strife flying through the air, grinding on rails, and throwing a giant buster sword at Sephiroth who's currently summoning a literal meteor. It is fast, it is chaotic, and it feels like a fever dream. This was Dissidia Final Fantasy. It wasn't just a gimmick crossover, it was one of the deepest, most satisfying action RPGs on the PSP. Yet today, if you want to play a modern Dissidia game, you can't. The series is dead in consoles, and Square Enix acts like the original games never existed in the first place.
Oh shit, here we go again.
What happened? How did one of Square's most beloved spin-offs go from absolute gold to completely abandoned? Today, we're looking at a franchise that broke my heart, and honestly, probably yours too if you grew up in the PSP era. We're talking about Dissidia Final Fantasy. Before we dive into the history of how Square Enix managed to turn a winning formula into a ghost town, do me a quick favor. If you love deep dives into gaming history, retro consoles, or just want to find out what went wrong with your favorite franchises, hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more gaming retrospectives and video essays on the way, and having you along for the ride means the world to us. Alright, let's start at the very beginning, with a concept that was originally never supposed to feature Final Fantasy characters at all. So, here's a fun piece trivia for you. Dissidia was actually the brainchild of Tetsuya Nomura. Yes, the Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy VII guy. Originally, he wanted to make a competitive spin-off of Kingdom Hearts featuring Disney characters. But there was a pretty big roadblock. Nomura realized that Disney probably wouldn't be too thrilled about their classic characters beating out each other in a high-speed arena fighter. So instead of Mickey boxing Goofy, Nomura pitched the idea of using Final Fantasy characters. And honestly, it was a stroke of genius. It was developed to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Final Fantasy franchise, releasing in Japan in 2008 and globally in 2009. Now, if you never played the original, you might think, oh, so it's a generic fighting game. But it really wasn't. Dissidia was an action RPG disguised as an arena fighter. The combat was built around a unique system: Brave attacks and HP attacks. You use Brave attacks to steal your opponent's combat points, making yourself stronger while making them weaker. Once you built up enough Brave points, you unleash an HP attack to actually damage their health bar. This created this incredible push and pull dynamic. Do you play it safe and chip away at their health? Or do you risk it all to build up a massive one-hit KO Brave pool? But the real secret sauce was the RPG depth. You weren't just picking a fighter and jumping in, you leveled characters up to 100. You unlock new passive abilities, customize your moveset, equip weapons and armors, and manage accessory setups to create custom builds. You could build a character to be a high-speed air dodger, a heavy ground slammer, or an absolute tank. And the story mode? It was wild. It took the main protagonist and antagonist from Final Fantasy 1 through 10, put them in a chessboard-style grid, and gave them actual fully voiced interactions. Seeing Squall Leonhardt reluctantly team up with Zidane Tribal or Sephiroth trading philosophy with Kuja was the absolute fan service. In 2011, Square Enix followed it up with Dissidia 12 Final Fantasy Duodecim. Duodecim was basically the perfect sequel. It added new characters like Lightning, Tifa, and Kain. It added a full-fledged open-world style map for the story mode and introduced an assist system where you could summon a teammate for quick combos or defensive breaks. It was a massive critical and commercial success. It felt like Square had captured lightning in a bottle. They had a competitive, highly replayable action game that honored the franchise's legacy perfectly. So, how did they manage to lose it? We're about to get into the part of the story where things start to take a turn. And trust me, it's a bit of a roller coaster. If you're enjoying this trip down memory lane so far, please take a second to hit that like button. It takes you less than a second, but it tells the YouTube algorithm that this video is worth showing to more people, which helps a small channel like this grow incredibly. Done? Now, let's talk about the decision that changed everything. For years, fans begged for a third game on the PlayStation 3 or the PlayStation 4. And in 2015, Square Enix finally announced that they were making a new Dissidia game. But there was a catch.
A what?
Instead of a console-first experience, Square Enix partnered with Koei Tecmo's Team Ninja to develop a version specifically for Japanese arcades. Now, Japanese arcades are a completely different beast compared to Western home consoles. In Japanese arcades, multiplayer games thrive on quick, high-intensity co-op play. People go to arcades with friends, put in a few coins, play a few matches, and leave. Because of this, Team Ninja redesigned the entire game from the ground up to be a 3v3 team-based brawler. This single decision fundamentally broke what made the original game so magical. In the original PSP games, the 1v1 combat allowed for tight, focused, high-speed duels. You could read your opponent's movements, dodge precisely, and utilize the arena verticality. In a 3v3 environment, that intimate, tactical combat became complete sensory overload. The screen was absolute chaos. Look at this HUD from the arcade version. You've got health bars, brave meters for 6 different characters, targeting lines flying across the screen, summon progress bars, and a mini-map. It looked less like a fighting game and more like a flight simulator control panel.
But wait! There's more!
When Square Enix ported this arcade game to the PC and PlayStation 4 in 2018 under the name Dissidia Final Fantasy NT, the problems only got worse.
Stop! He's already dead!
Because it was born as an arcade game designed to eat quarters. Almost all of the deep single-player RPG progression was completely stripped away. The level-up system was bare bones, there was no gear to collect, no customization of stats, and no deep accessory builds. Characters were locked into specific classes like Vanguard, Assassin, or Marksman, which severely limited how you could play them. Even worse, the story mode wasn't a real campaign. It was just a series of cutscenes locked behind a progression wall. To unlock a single cutscene, you had to play online matches or arcade fights to earn Memoria points. In short, it felt like a chore.
No! God! No! God, please, no!
And to top it all off, the online multiplayer, which was supposed to be the game's whole point, was plagued by peer-to-peer lag. If even one player out of the 6 had a bad internet connection, the entire match slowed down to a painful slideshow. Square Enix tried to push NT as an esports title, but the core community wasn't interested. They didn't want a chaotic esports-focused team brawler. They wanted a deep, customizable, single-player friendly, 1v1 RPG they fell in love with on the PSP. The game bombed commercially. In 2020, just 2 years after its console launch, Square Enix announced they were stopping all updates and DLC for both arcades and console versions. The console dream was officially dead. But wait, the story doesn't end there. After NT was abandoned on consoles, the franchise went quiet. But instead of taking NT's failure as a cue to bring the franchise back to its beloved 1v1 console roots, Square Enix doubled down. Partnering with developer NHN PlayArt, they launched a brand new mobile exclusive entry, Dissidia Duellum Final Fantasy. And if you thought NT was a departure from the original formula, Duellum took things to a whole new level of bizarre. For starters, the game is played entirely in forced portrait orientation. The classic arena battles are completely gone. Instead, Duellum is structured as a 3v3 team boss battle arena. You and two teammates compete in a race against another team to see who can defeat a central boss first. The signature Brave and HP system is technically there, but it's completely warped. You can't even damage the boss normally. First, you have to run around the arena, defeat small monsters, and stand next to corrupted crystals to purify them. Doing this builds your bravery points. Once you hit exactly 9,999 bravery, you trigger Bravery Burst, which is the only window of time where your attacks actually damage the boss's health. But the real kicker here is the progression. Duellum is a heavy gacha game. While you can unlock characters with tickets over time, their actual combat abilities and outfits are locked behind banners. The gear and abilities range all the way up to ultra rare, and to make your characters actually competitive, you need to pull duplicate copies of these ultra rare abilities to level up their stats. For free-to-play players, this is a massive paywall. If you go into ranked PvP matches, you will quickly find yourself getting completely shredded by players who simply swipe their credit cards for high-level ultra-rare skills. Between the clunky vertical touch controls, awful camera angles, and a story told through text bubbles on a parody chat app called Fine, Duellum left classic fans incredibly disappointed. Instead of learning from NT, Square Enix doubled down on the chaotic, multiplayer-focused, corporate trend chasing that made the community walk away in the first place. So, why does Square Enix consistently ignore the fans who are begging for a return to their original 1v1 RPG-heavy PSP style? Why not just give us a remaster of Duodecim? To understand this, you have to look at how Square Enix operates as a business nowadays. Currently, Square Enix gaming portfolio is deeply polarized. On one hand, you have massive high-budget cinematic AAA blockbusters like Final Fantasy XVI and Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy. These games cost hundreds of millions of dollars and take half a decade to make. On the other hand, you have cheap, low-risk mobile games designed to make quick cash through microtransactions before being shut down a year or two later. The middle ground, what we call AA mid-budget console games, has become a very awkward space for Square. When they do try to make mid-budget games, they often rush them down with very little marketing or load them up with live service elements that nobody asked for. In my opinion, because Dissidia NT failed, the executives at Square Enix likely looked at the sales numbers and concluded that nobody wants a Dissidia game after all. They completely misunderstood why the game failed. They blamed the franchise name rather than their own decision to turn a beloved single-player RPG into an esports-focused arcade game. A simple high-definition remaster of Dissidia 12 Duodecim with rollback netcode for online play would absolutely delight the core fanbase. But in a corporate world that only chases massive AAA hits or gacha cash cows, a sensible mid-budget project like that easily gets lost in the shuffle. At its core, the tragedy of Dissidia is that it was a victim of corporate trend chasing. It went from a passion-driven celebration of a legendary franchise to an arcade cash grab, and finally, to a vertical gacha-fueled boss rushes on modern mobile phones. But for those of us who spent hundreds of hours customizing our gear, leveling up our favorite heroes, and fighting friends ad hoc on our PSPs, those memories aren't going nowhere. I want to hear from you guys. Did you play the original Dissidia games on the PSP? Who was your main and what was your favorite character build? Let me know down in the comment section. Until the next video, thanks for watching, keep gaming, and stay awesome.